They didn't want to just build it, Ezra. They wanted it back better.
Maybe. Oh, wow. Man, that's there's something about throwing me back to that moment that hurts at this moment, right? Like the optimism, it was a simpler time.
It was a simpler time. Yeah, but you make the point in the book, which I think is really interesting, that moment of optimism actually crystallized in some ways the failure.
Yes.
And you make it very stark in terms of, for instance, the Chargers, which I think is a great example.
So liberals passed $7.5 billion for a nationwide network of electric vehicle chargers. We also get $42 billion, and this is a big thing they tout a lot, to do rural broadband. There's a lot of parts of this country that are not hooked up to broadband. And in both cases, and these were passed early in the administration, particularly the rural broadband money, by the end of the administration, by the election, by the time I'm fact-checking the book, they just have not happened.
Boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. So we got to talk about a fascinating conversation between Jon Stewart and liberal journalist Ezra Klein, okay? As Jon Stewart is going to get schooled on why Build Back Better did not work. And I think conversations like this are important due to the fact that it clearly shows what I'm talking about when I say that progressives are naive about the world, right? They're naive about life. A lot of them don't have life experience. They don't really pay taxes. And once you get into the real world, you kind of understand that a lot of this stuff that Democrats promise, it sounds good on paper, right? Like, for example, in California, when they decided to spend $20+ billion to end homelessness, right? Oh, that sounds amazing. Who would be against ending homelessness, right? Even if it costs billions to do, okay? However, the reality is that when it comes to the execution, a vast majority of the time, nothing gets done because the money is funneled to a bunch of special interest groups, liberal nonprofits, and individuals that don't have any real motivation or incentive to try to solve the problem that the money was used to solve, right? Because if you actually solve the problem, then the money dries up. Okay. And it's very easy to do this with the government, right? It's very easy to do it. This is why you always have these stories about these massive projects where they spend billions and billions and billions of dollars and nothing gets done for years. Okay. Because there's an incentive structure from special interest groups to make sure that nothing gets done so that they continue to get paid, right? Because as long as nothing gets done, then there will continue to be the problem and people will get paid to solve the problem, a problem that never gets solved, right? And that's kind of how it works. And in this video right here, Jon Stewart is going to be schooled on why Build Back Better was a disaster. Mainly, billions that Biden spent on electric charging stations for highways that only a handful got built, right? But we spent billions of dollars on it. And also spending $40+ billion on rural broadband that also nothing has been done with that as well too, right? But again, we spent billions, and Jon Stewart is going to learn why it didn't work, which is going to leave him speechless because he's actually going to learn how Democrat policies work and why they're terrible, okay? And extremely inefficient. And a lot of that has to do with red tape, regulations, stopping anything from getting done, but billions of dollars are being spent anyways, even though, again, nothing is being done. So Ezra Klein is going to school Jon Stewart, going to educate Jon Stewart on all the red tape that the states had to jump through in order to get the funds, okay? Which, again, is why this project is a failure. So without further ado, let's get it.
We have to issue the notice of funding opportunity within 180 days. That's step one. Step two, which all 56 state applicants completed, is states who want to participate must submit a letter of intent. After they do that, they can submit a request for up to $5 million in planning grants. Then the NTIA, step 4, has to review and approve and award, again, planning grants, not broadband grants, planning grants.
And it's still at the NTIA. It's still at the first step.
All right, so the NTIA must issue a NOFO within 180 days. States who want to participate must submit their letter of intent. Step 3, they can request up to $5 million in planning grants.
Just planning.
Just planning. Step 4, the requests are reviewed, approved, and awarded by the NTIA. which currently all 56, 3 years later, all 56 applicants had passed through at least step 5. It took more than 3 years. So it's a long time. States must submit a 5-year action plan. So the states kind of go back and they kind of think about how they're going to do this. And they don't just say, okay, thank you for the money. We're going to spend it. And you can see how it worked out later. We're like, here's our 5-year action plan. Then the FCC must publish the broadband data maps before NTIA allocates funds. So having done the NOFO, the letters of intent, the request for planning grants, then the review, approval, and awarding of the planning grants, then the 5-year action plans. In between that, the federal government has to put forward a map saying where it thinks we need rural broadband subsidies. And then, of course, the states need an opportunity to challenge the map for accuracy. And you can imagine this doesn't all happen in like a day. Okay, so then the NTIA, step 7, has to use the FCC maps to make allocation decisions. Then, having already done their letter of intent, their request for planning grants, it's hard even to talk about this, man. Step 7 is NTIA must use the FCC maps that were already challenged for allocation decisions. Then, having submitted all this, I think this one is actually quite amazing. Yeah. Having submitted their 5-year plans or letters of intent, step 8 is states must submit an initial proposal to the NTIA. Then,
is that the result of their $5 million planning fund? This initial
I assume,
proposal?
But then what was the 5-year plan?
And what the fuck did they apply for? What was their NOFO?
Like, if the 5-year action plan isn't the initial proposal, then what's the 5-year action
plan? Forget NOFO.
Okay.
MOFO.
Step 9, NTIA must review and approve each state's, again, initial proposal. By my read, we have had at least 2 initial proposals here, but that's a different issue.
Oh my God.
Step 10, states must publish their own map and allow internal challenges to their own map. So the government has published a map. They have invited the states to challenge the map. Then states have submitted initial proposals, and they then have to publish their own map and allow challenges.
Wait, who's challenging it within the state?
Well, organized interest groups, environmental groups, like I don't know who specifically.
Yeah, progressives, right? And again, they're all getting paid, right? They're all getting paid. Again, this is how it works. This is how the grift works, right? See, again, when you actually learn how things work, you understand that progressive policies are garbage, right? It sounds great. Sounds amazing. Oh, $40 billion for broadband, right? However, when you get into the execution of it, all of this could have been done much cheaper if they just would have paid for everybody to get Starlink. But they hate Elon Musk so much that they'd rather go through this process instead, right? Could have spent a fraction. And you actually could have connected people to the internet, right? By just saying, hey, here's a stipend to go get Starlink. And I'm not even saying that's what we should do. I'm not saying that the government actually should be paying for people to get Starlink. I'm just saying that if this is what you're going to do, you want to bring broadband to rural America, there were much more efficient ways to go about doing it. But this is how they did it. And see, this is why I'm never fazed when these progressives come out here and they start complaining about the Doge cuts. Oh, Doge cut these programs. And I'm like, well, if you look into these programs, right, a vast majority of these programs, again, it's just a waste of money. It sounds like they do great things on paper, but they don't, right? They don't. Because a lot of these programs, again, are watered down with these type of bureaucratic, regulatory processes that make it impossible to do things. But again, money's being spent. So again, Trump comes out and says, we're not doing this anymore, right? Oh, Trump cut $40 billion to bring broadband to rural America. It's so terrible, right? This is what they'll say. But when you look at the details, nothing's getting done, right? Nothing's getting done. So he's not really cutting anything because nothing's being done, right? Nobody's losing any services because nothing's being done. But again, if you let progressives have their way, they will spend $10 trillion to fight climate change, which is exactly what they tried to do during the Biden administration.
Here that there were going to be 2 separate bills, and we had already had those conversations, but when it was clear remember, the investment kept going down, down, down. And we were like, no, because we need this investment. We need, like you said, the money. That was more money for lead pipes than what we had.
I think it was 3.9 trillion. Did it start at 3.9 and go down, or did it?
We were at, I thought we were at 10, and then it went down to 6, and then down to 3, then it went down to 1.7, I believe.
They wanted to spend $10 trillion, guys. That's how much they wanted to spend during the pandemic. $10 trillion. This is why I try to take out, it's not an exaggeration when I say that if Bernie Sanders and AOC, Jasmine Crockett, if they were leading this country, we would turn into Venezuela. Our borders would be wide open. We will be printing money out the ass. I mean, we already are, but much more so. Again, we will be in a state of hyperinflation. We'll be Venezuela. That's exactly what will happen. And that's not an exaggeration. That's just me being honest. Okay? Because that is what they tell us. That's what they tell us. They want to spend $10 trillion. Do you guys think that $10 trillion would have been spent responsibly? Right? If Biden can't even spend $40 billion to connect rural America to broadband responsibly, what do you think they would do with $10 trillion to fight climate change? It will be blown on special interest groups, on liberal lobbying groups, on environmental groups. The liberals will love it. They get paid, right? And this is why they advocate for it so much, because the government money goes to them. This is how the grift works. And then they try to guilt trip people who don't want our tax dollars to be spent on these things as if we're bad people, when the reality is that the tax dollars are going to the liberals, right? They're trying to steal your tax money. That's what they're doing in the name of their progressive agenda, which, again, as we can see, nothing ever really gets done, right? But the liberal lobbying groups, the progressives, they're getting paid, right? But they want to make it seem like you're the bad person. You're a bad person because you don't want to continue to send your tax dollars to help them get rich, right?
But literally anybody. This is, right. I want to say something because it's very important I say this. This is the Biden administration's process for its own bill. They wanted this to happen. This is how liberal government works now.
This is something they instituted for this bill.
For their bill. This is a bill passed by Democrats with a regulatory structure written by Democratic administration. Okay.
Right.
Step 11. The NTIA must review and improve the challenge results and the final map. So the NTIA has put forward a map. The states have challenged that map. Then the states have put forward their maps, had other challenges. And now the NTIA must review and approve the challenges to the state maps. Okay. So we've done step 11, NTIA must review and approve challenge results and final map. We've lost 9 of the applicants at that point. Step 12, states must run a competitive sub-granting process.
Oh my fucking God. At step 12, after all this has been done.
Yeah, none of that could have happened along the way here. We have now lost 17 more applicants. So now 30 of 56 have completed step 12. Step 13, states must submit a final proposal. All the proposals weren't enough to NTIA. Now that goes to 3 of 56. So we've gone in the last couple steps from 56 had gone to this point to 3 of 56. Step 14, the NTIA must review and approve the state's final proposal. And that is 3 of the 56 jurisdictions and states are there. In summary, states are nearly at the finish line. And it says to stop their progress now, or worse, to make them go backwards, would be a stick in the spokes of the most promising broadband deployment plans we have ever seen. End scene.
I'm speechless, Ezra. Honestly, it's far worse than I could have imagined. But the fact that they amputated their own legs on this is what's so stunning.
Again, this is what I try to tell you guys. Progressives, which Jon Stewart is a progressive, are naive. This is why his mind was blown. This is why he was speechless, right? Because he didn't know how this works. He doesn't understand, right, how much red tape and bureaucracy goes into all of these little projects from the Democrats, right? He didn't understand that. He don't get it. He just knows on paper, oh, well, this is what they're doing. They're trying to bring broadband to rural America, right? But again, when you actually get into the details in regards to what it takes to actually accomplish that, you realize just how screwed up of a process that it is. And again, this is why Democrats don't get things done. All they do is blow money. But I guarantee you throughout this whole process, there are a bunch of, again, special interest groups, liberals, getting paid, right? They are taken off the top as these states have to continue to jump through a regulatory process that would have been done much more efficiently had, again, you just gave the money to the states directly and said, hey, you can use it to, get your citizen Starlink, right? Would have been a fraction of the cost. And the broadband would have been there. The internet would have been connected. The mission would have been accomplished. But that makes too much sense, okay? And also, again, Democrats hate Elon. So they weren't going to do that, right? They'd rather go through this process. So, this is what happens when you are a progressive and you grow up, right? When you grow up a little bit, okay? When you learn how things work. Oh, wait, wow, I didn't know it was this bad. Yeah, it is that bad, right? It is that bad. That's why Democrats don't accomplish anything. This is why they're terrible at governing. This is why you have people currently fleeing blue states, going to red states because of this type of governance from Democrats. So let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.